The purpose of Wealth Talk is to educate, inform, and hopefully entertain you on the subject of building your wealth. Wealth Builders recommends you should always take independent financial, tax, or legal advice before making any decisions around your finances.
Welcome to episode 120 of Wealth Talk. My name is Christian Rodwell, the Membership Director for Wealth Builders, and I'm joined today by our founder and co-host, Kevin Whelan. Hello, Kevin.
Hello, Chris. You've had a little bit of a holiday, haven't you? You've been a bit of a spluttery start, but
I'm a bit jittery this morning. I've been early sessioning in the gym. I'm still shaking, so yeah.
Okay. Good for you. I'm glad to hear you've come back from your holiday recharged with a new focus, and it was good to have a game of golf with you recently as well. So glad to see you improving.
Slowly, yes. Okay, so back with another episode today, and we're focusing on the business pillar today. So we know that of the 7 pillars of wealth, business is pillar number 5, Kevin, and also know that it's your favourite pillar. So why don't we start with that? Why do you find business so interesting?
Well, I love business because it enables you to think through the solution to problems and become a value creator. So it's the creation of business. It's looking at the very essence of what problems are you solving. And what I've found to be the most interesting and enlightening as a business owner myself is that when you do that work and you do it seriously, you can bring change, you can bring transformation, and you can bring a better quality of life to people you serve. And what better calling is there than that? I mean, some people call it selling. Well, in the end, selling is persuading people to do something better for themselves than they do ordinarily. And in my experience, if you're selling something, you're offering something. And if you carefully craft your offer, you're trying to find a way to give somebody a better outcome. And I think better outcomes is at the core of a business. And therefore, the returns are not linked to the quality and the performance of a marketplace like the stock market, the gold market, Bitcoin, or anything else. It's entirely driven by your ability to create and craft a message and then persuade other people that the message will serve their lives. And if they do that, your return on investment is infinite. There's no limit. But of course, like many people who get into business, they don't always come at it from that place. More often than not, as the E-Myth, the seminal book on this subject will tell us, is most people get into business not to solve the problem of a customer, let's say, but to solve their own problem of being frustrated with the job they're in. So the what do you call it? The technician suffering from an entrepreneurial seizure. And of course, because the technician does the work, they're so used to doing the work, and therefore the whole essence of doing the work is to be rewarded for work, which is, we'll hear from our guest today, the very opposite of what you should be doing, which is almost everybody who provides some kind of a service. I think that's the essence of his message today, Chris, is they charge an hourly rate, which is probably the worst thing you could do by far.
That's right. So we have invited Robin Waite today, who's the founder of Fearless Business Coaching, to talk about that very topic of how to stop trading time for money in your business. And we know it's a common mistake that people make, Kevin. I know very well, having worked with hundreds of people in the Escape the Rat Race community, that people get fed up in a job, a bit like my story. You sometimes enjoy your job, but at the end of the day, you still have to turn up on time. You still get paid the same every month. You still have a boss. And so there's a point where for a lot of people, they say, well, you know what? I've been doing this long enough. I've got enough experience. I could do it better myself. So I'm going to set up my own business. And that's the step they take. And then they find that instead of actually creating a business, which we know a business is an asset, it has to work without you, they are purely self-employed. So if they stop working, the money stops coming in. And that's, quite tricky, isn't it, Kevin? For a lot of people who don't have any business experience, they may be very smart and clever inside a company working as a part of a team. But when it comes to suddenly being a business owner and having to do all those different things themselves, they realize just how much hard work that is.
It makes me laugh sometimes. I don't mean this in a negative way, but I can remember doing a presentation, a long time ago when I first set up WealthBuilders, Chris. You long before you, we moved into a farm. There's a farm in Sussex, and there are 400 cows on the farm. And what was interesting for me as you think about business is, there was a time when you heard about something called bovine spongiform encephalopathy. Can you remember what that stood for, Chris?
Yes, I do. Well, I remember the mad cow disease. Yes,
it was mad cow disease. So you realise that actually, when you're in business, there's dangers and dangers around you. Like we had the floods, didn't we? In February, we had COVID, which has affected businesses in so many different ways. But the reason for the bovine spongiform encephalopathy kind of parallel is mad cows are one thing, but mad entrepreneurs are another. And I find most entrepreneurs are completely mad. They get so caught up in wearing the hat of the sales manager, the marketing director, the finance manager, the ops manager, the whatever job there's going, they've got it. And so instead of being freed to be outstanding in their area of work, they get trapped in doing all the things that was provided by the company before. And therefore, the ability to think creatively about the business somehow gets stifled, and hence is that fallback into, well, what's the hourly rate I was on? How do I get more? Because I want more, because I deserve more. And what are my competitors doing? And that's pretty much how businesses think about their solution rather than an alternative, which is really what is the guarantee, what is the solution that you're offering in the business, not how long does it take you to do it.
Yeah, and as we've said many times before, really it's about beginning with the end in mind. And that, again, is difficult to do when you don't have a business at the beginning to kind of know, well, how's that going to look in 5 years, 10 years' time? And that, again, is one of the reasons why it can really help to have a good business coach from an early stage, because they can really help shape the future of your business and make sure that you don't get completely sucked into it. So you're just working twice as long for half the amount of money that you were when you were in a job. So probably a good point, Kevin, for us to head over to our conversation today with Robin Waite. Robin, welcome to Wealth Talk.
Oh, it's so great to be here. I'm really excited about the interview.
Yes, me too. We've actually been running a program for our Academy members this week, Robin, of how to validate your business idea. So the topic of business is really on point, and your company, Fearless Business Coaching, is what we're going to be talking about today, and really just understanding, obviously, how you came about to set the company up, and who you focus on helping and how you go about helping them. So why don't you start by giving us a bit of an intro to yourself, Robin?
Yeah, of course. So founded Fearless Business in 2016, but I have I've run businesses for the last 20 years, believe it or not. I know some people look at me and think you don't look old enough, but yeah, run businesses for 20 years. So what I did prior to Fearless Business was actually run a marketing agency doing web design and branding for 12 years, very successfully, but I won't give the sort of full story, but had sort of just fell out of love with that business towards the end. We grew it to about £250,000 and had a small, slightly dysfunctional team of 4 people working within it. And just realised at that point it wasn't really fulfilling me, so wanted a bit more of a challenge. But we were quite innovative in what was traditionally a sort of time for money based business of sort of selling hours to build, for our time to build websites and do graphic design and things. We innovated in the last couple of years and started doing sort of one-day branding workshops and things like that, and were able as a result to charge sort of significantly more for it. And the reason I ended up sort of making a transition into sort of setting up Fearless Business as a coaching practice is because people saw what we were doing in our agency and they wanted to replicate it in their own business, not necessarily other agencies, but other sort of service client businesses. So I ended up exiting the agency altogether. We sold that off, not for a huge sum, but enough to kind of for me to start up the coaching practice. And the rest is history. So now we focus on helping other sort of service client businesses who are maybe charging time for money, likes of coaches, consultants, freelancers, to package up what they do and hopefully charge a bit more money for it.
Yeah. And that's really what we're going to be talking about today, is helping small business owners, really understand the whole model around how to price themselves, their products, and packaging things together. So we're going to dive into that in a short while. But I've been kept busy this week, Robin, because you sent me a lovely package of goodies, right? And we're recording this interview on video, as we always do. So head over to the Wealth Builders Facebook page and the groups to see that video. But firstly, sent me a lovely coin, like a very wealth building coin, which was just a little gift there. But accompanying that, of course, was a copy of your book, Take Your Shot, which we can talk about in a second, and also your Fearless Business Client Success Pack. And on the very first page, I want to read this out because the reference is just so spot on in terms of wealth building. And you're referring to, obviously, the richest man of Babylon story in Arcad, who went on to become the richest man in Babylon and was invited by the Babylonian government to teach the top 50 teachers in Babylon on how to build wealth so they could teach more people. So what is the secret? And the secret you've put is wealth didn't come from earning more money, but in learning how to manage their money better.
100%.
Yeah. So, we obviously have got the 7 different ways to build wealth, but you're right. It's about then how do you compound that and accumulate that and make that money work hard for you. So business is such a great asset. So let's talk about business a little bit more. And, again, in your book, it's really a great sharp read, but there's some key points in there. So, can you share with us maybe, just a few of the key lessons you think that are kind of relevant to the conversation we're going to have today, Robin?
Yeah, 100%. I'm going to build very quickly on that quote because there's like a modern day version of that quote as well now, which you can apply to any business. Because the most common problem I hear a lot of business owners say is, I've got a cash flow problem. Okay. And the reality is they never have a cash flow problem because cash flows into the business, it flows straight back out. So the reality is, like, small business owners really need to, yes, they need to focus on making more money, but the wealth builder part of it is they need to, how do we keep that money and how are we able to sort of reinvest that money back into our business or through our own personal finances in order to then sort of, keep on accumulating that wealth. But yeah, I think 99% of business owners, it's easy come, easy go, in and it's out, and that's it. I've got a cash flow problem, but it's not nothing to do with cash flow. But yeah, in terms of the book, there's kind of 3 really key takeaways in there. So probably the best place to start is around too many business owners start up the business because mum, dad, their brother, whoever says, oh, that would be a really great idea for a business. Why don't you go and do it? And they start doing this thing without much of a plan, certainly when it comes to just running the business, but they have absolutely no idea when it comes to the finances, most business owners, when they first start. So we have a very simple model around sort of how to set financial goals for your business that ultimately creates a very simple business model for the business owner to sort of to follow. And ultimately, that's then what leads on to sort of the productization and the pricing side of things. But just to give you an example, imagine if a business owner, and I know that with Wealth Builders, one of the things which you do is you get people to focus on what's your monthly goal for yourself. How much money do you need to earn in order to create financial freedom? Okay, so it's a very similar principle that we teach in Fearless about your business. So if, for example, you'd worked out that in order to have a sustainable business, you needed to earn £100,000 a year, and maybe the widgets that you're selling, whether it's a product or a service, but let's call them widgets for now, are £1,000. Well, you divide one into the other, and it means that you need to have 100 units of capacity to be able to deliver those 1,000 widgets in order to make £100,000 a year. And it's quite amusing when I give people a very basic calculation like this and they go, I couldn't possibly deliver 100 units. That's just ridiculous. I don't have that much capacity or time or money or whatever it might be. So very quickly, we've got a litmus test for how productive, how successful that business is going to be in achieving its goal. And it's at that point where we then start to get into sort of the nitty gritty of, right, well, if we can't sell 100 widgets at £1,000, well, how do we sell 20 widgets at £5,000? And that's where we start to have a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so you've touched on their pricing, productization, we've got to pick, I guess, an avatar to kind of talk to now. So we're assuming someone's already kind of in business, right? They're up and running, but things are not going as well as they want. So what are some of the first places that you sit down, you start diving in and start really understanding about how they've gone about pricing their products and how they're selling their time, perhaps, whether they're selling their time by the hour still. And is that a good idea or not such a good idea?
Gosh, there's about 6 questions in there. Right, I'll work through them piecemeal as best I can. So one of the first mistakes that I see people making is they look at their competitors. So irrespective whether it's a product or a service-based business, so I want to make this relevant to as many people as we can. And by the way, it's the right thing to do. Go and look at your competition to see how much they're charging. But the mistake is assuming that how much your competitors are charging is actually going to work for your business. Because it might be that those people are maybe charging below market value. And if you charge the same, you could end up losing money as a result of it. So if you're at the cheaper end of the spectrum, and obviously the goal in business is to make profit. It's not, we don't want to be running a business at a loss because we're going to go out of business fairly soon. So if our competitors are all, scrapping at the bottom, charging as little as they can because they think that's how to attract clients, that business model may be fundamentally flawed for ourselves. How this plays out, though, for service-based businesses, when you start to move into the time for money sort of trap, is that, I have a belief that actually charging by the hour is fundamentally unethical, okay? And the best way to explain this is go back to my agency days with web design, and I'll give you an example of 3 different web designers, okay? First one is a guy called Dave, okay? He comes along and he's like, I'm going to build you, Christian, the best website I possibly can do. I reckon it will take me 20 hours and I'll charge you £50 an hour. And you go, yeah, okay, that sounds reasonable. Off he goes. He comes back 3 months later because he's not charging enough. He's used up all his capacity. It takes him ages. You look at the site and you go, well, hang on, Dave. You said you were going to put a blog on there and a shopping cart. Like, where are those? And oh, sorry, Christian. By the way, I've used up your 20 hours. So if you want those on there, it'll cost you another 10 hours at £50 an hour. Is that okay? And you're thinking, no, I'm not so happy with that. Right, so that's Dave. Steve comes along, right? Steve's brilliant at building websites, been doing it for years, but he doesn't know what Christian and Robin know about pricing. Okay, so he's also charging £50 an hour, but he's brilliant at what he does. So in a week, he comes back and he says, "Here's your website. It's got the blog, it's got the shopping cart on it, and this will generate you, I reckon, 5 to 10 leads a month. No problem at all for your business." But it only took him 10 hours. Hang on a second. So he's getting paid a third of what the less experienced, poorer quality website guy is delivering. Like, that just doesn't make sense. It's like unethical because Steve should be getting paid not a third of what this guy's getting paid, but triple what he's getting paid because he gets better results. And then we have the third person, right? Trisha comes in. Trisha's like a website ninja, she's doing it for years. She has guaranteed results on what she does. She can knock this thing out the park in 24 hours. Within 30 days, it will be generating 50 to 20 leads for your business, guaranteed, okay? And if she can't deliver that for you, Christian, she's going to give you a full refund, plus she's going to pay you £1,000 for wasting your time, okay? Now ask me how much Trisha's websites are.
Well, how much would that cost, Robin?
They're 10K.
Well, there's a pretty solid guarantee that comes with that, right? So unless she delivers,
you get the money back and you can go and spend it with Dave or Steve if you want to. Okay. So, and this is where a lot of people get caught out. Well, first of all, you can see that hourly rates just don't work. It's much better when you have a product which delivers a really clear and specific outcome over a clearly defined period of time. And that's like the art of productization. When you can articulate your value to that degree of specificity, all of a sudden it's completely transformative. Also, Trisha needs 1/10 of the clients as the other two, right? In order to make the same amount of money. Okay, so now Trisha has so much more time to deliver a better quality product and spend time putting into being coached, learning about websites, learning about all the latest and greatest trends. She could afford people to come in and work in her business because, who maybe are better at her than doing her own job. So she has more time to deliver this better quality product, which produces better results and more money out the back end of it. So it's kind of why wouldn't we all charge that way?
Yeah, absolutely. And, obviously for a business to be a true asset, it needs to be able to work without you. So by packaging up, productizing it, as you say, you can leverage other people and systems to be able to do that work, and it's not sitting on your shoulders. So that's the true art really of crafting a business, isn't it? That will generate a recurring income month after month.
Yeah, 100%. And the other thing as well is a lot of people get caught up with this, just they see having one core product, and they put all of their time, energy, and effort into that. But that's only part. That's like half the solution. One of the ways to kind of build a sustainable business with recurring revenue coming into it, obviously, is to then have some kind of logical next step, a follow-on product that, where possible, doesn't require as much energy or effort or input in order to kind of maintain it. So, again, I'll stick with the website theme just because I know it, very well from my old agency days. You buy a website in the first hand, but then you have to have some kind of a care plan to kind of maintain it and update it and things like that, make sure it's still secure. And what happens is over time, that creates something called customer lifetime value. And because what happens is if you didn't do the care plans and you just focused on that one product, you end up in something called the sales cycle of doom. Okay. Sell, deliver, sell, deliver, sell, deliver, sell, deliver. And then it's like, because you're just constantly having to get new clients in order to kind of keep, maintaining some money in your business. And then, you through that, you probably get burnt out, or you have to take holidays periodically. And then so sell, deliver stops, you stop spending money, you get better, you come back from holiday, deep breath, and then off we go again on the same cycle. And so when you start to build in a follow-on product, that's where you create sustainable, recurring revenue, which you can then feed back into the business. And typically, just throwing numbers out there, a good follow-on product will quadruple the customer lifetime value of the initial product. So if you sell a product for 10K, you should be able to generate over the next 3, 4, 5 years, it varies from business to business, but a further 30K on top of that. And that's where you end up with this, I call it like the espresso machine model of a business, okay? Where people are paying in little and often into one part of the business, and then they have this espresso machine. And so to explain this analogy, if you look at Starbucks, next time you go in to one of their shops, you've probably just gone in and bought your latte or cappuccino or whatever it is, and maybe a cake off the stall, and off you go. But Starbucks know that they have this small, solid set of raving fans, okay, who one day, one of them walks into the shop, and this happens 2 or 3 times a year, or maybe a bit more often, and they want their latte, they want a bag of beans, and they go, oh, I want the Starbucks experience at home, can I have that espresso machine? And they keep them on the counter. Now, those espresso machines produce as much net profit as about 3,000 cups of coffee. Can you imagine how long it takes to deliver 3,000 cups of coffee? So we actually need this like super expensive product, and their espresso machines, by the way, are like double the price of if you went to get one from John Lewis even, or somewhere like that, because they know that it's got the Starbucks badge on it. So it's that branding thing that's probably a completely different conversation. But most business owners, they are lacking so much in confidence. Their money mindset is, for want of a better word, poor. It's so poor that they kind of like the idea of selling a super expensive espresso machine in their business, but they're just way too afraid of it because of all of the beliefs, the money blueprint which was drilled into them as a child, and the constant like people telling them that they're not worth enough, and that all comes through in their business when they try and sell things. So yeah, a lot of the work which we end up doing is like we give them confidence around packaging up their core products. We get them focused on building like recurring revenue through sort of custom, follow-on products, customer lifetime value, and then we start to introduce this concept of this super expensive product, and all they have to do is just like Starbucks do, pop it up on the shelf. When somebody asks about it, they tell them about it. It doesn't have to be fully built, fully formed as an idea. It's just an espresso machine that when somebody wants it, we sell it to somebody.
Yeah, really good points there, Robin. And, obviously we know that so many people, get into business for, as you said, different reasons, right? Maybe the business is handed down, or, they had a great idea and, it's just evolved. And these things are not thought about from day one, are they? So you can be so embroiled in the way that you are doing business that I can imagine it's quite difficult sometimes to go in and try and unpick and unravel it. And, I can see why looking at certain things like lifetime customer value, right, it's so important there. And you mentioned about like the profit boosters, just having like the espresso machine or something there that, will just almost be complete profit on top of what you're already generating. But the other thing about a lifetime customer, knowing the lifetime customer value is it tells you how much you can spend on acquiring a customer at the front end, right? So this comes back to the marketing piece, because probably most business owners have really got no idea actually how much they can spend to acquire a customer. So any other points around that at all, Robin?
Well, you're absolutely on the money, and I could go, there's a whole rabbit hole we could go down here from a marketing perspective. But just in terms of like, think of it, it's a bit like, I'm going to see if I form this analogy in the right way. It's a bit like when you find a tenner on the floor, on the pavement, right, you get the endorphins kind of kick off, and it feels like it's like, I don't know, like an 8 out of 10. I'm really happy, or, I'm quite happy about this. If somebody then comes and takes that £10 note out of your hand, you conversely to that feel much worse than how happy you feel. All of a sudden, it's like, when somebody takes something away from you, it's like a 12 out of 10. So how this works from a marketing perspective, and where you're talking about how much it costs to acquire a client, most people just cannot get their head around the concept of being in debt almost to acquire each client, but knowing, like, so say, for example, if it costs us, maybe we're selling a monthly subscription to something, okay, and we're charging £50 a month for it, but so we're going to get £50 a month back time and time again, and maybe they stay for 3 years. So, but it costs you £200 to acquire that client. You're kind of in debt for 4 months until you've earned the money back, and then you start earning on top of it. Most people just can't get their head around being in debt to acquire clients. They just don't get it. There's a lot of work to do to kind of unpack that. But again, there's kind of ways around that, especially in the service industry as well. So, I mean, sort of SaaS products, subscription products is one model. You've got traditional sort of physical products, on Amazon businesses, for example, and going into shops. In service client businesses, though, there's a way that we can kind of overcome this. So if we can get used to selling a super expensive product, most service business, let's say we had I'm throwing out some random numbers, so apologies if people aren't keeping up with the numbers, but let's say, for example, as a coach, I were to sell a program for 3K, okay? And that's a 6-month coaching program. The mistake most people make is they just take £3,000 and divide it by 6. But if it's cost them £900 to enroll that client in the first place, like, again, that debt's there. So actually what we do is we front load the investment for that client. So we might take £1,500 as an enrollment fee, so we're immediately cash flow positive, and then we space out the rest of the other £1,500 over, say, 5 months. And again, like, you can get, when you start to understand how money works, and especially in a business, you can get really creative about, I call it reducing friction in the sales process. And this isn't just for the customer, it's also for the service provider. You can get really creative about offering payment plans and things like that, and how you get people committed to, how you get more committed clients and things like that. Think about it. If somebody's paid 50% up front for a service, they're going to be really committed to getting the best results out of it, because if they try and walk away partway through, they're walking away from a big lump of cash. So again, it's like, there's so much when it comes into sort of money, managing money within a business.
And money mindset as well, which is a whole different conversation, which maybe we can revisit another day. But, mindset is absolutely step one in our roadmap, where we help people to, become financially independent. And I think in anything, right, whether you believe you can or you believe you can't, you're right, is generally where the starting point is. So another person that I know we both admire and follow, John Warrilow, he wrote The Automatic Customer. He was a guest actually on Wealth Talk as well back in episode 37. And again, coming back to this whole productization of, you've really got to think of how you can take what you do, package that up and create a product from that. And again, I mean, I think, we want to stress that point enough today, don't we? That, that really is the way forward if you want to release yourself from the day-to-day, working in the business as opposed to on the business.
That's it. John Warrilow talks about 3 levers with a product when you sort of with a service when you productize it. That and there's tons of other examples as well. Rich Litvin in the coaching space talks about exactly the same. So what they say a product should do, it should deliver a really clearly defined outcome or result. So really specific outcome or result for the client over a clearly defined period of time and for a fixed fee. And the trouble is that this is where you start to then tip the balance into the mindset side of it. A fixed fee for a 6-month coaching program, £3,000, for example, sounds like a big number to a lot of people. And how we sell services, products, is reflected often in how we buy it. So when we hear £3,000, we think that's a big number, we get really petrified of saying that big number. So where I kind of start to shift on from sort of John Warrillow's way of thinking around productization is that we have to pick numbers, not that are just inside our comfort zone, but are just outside it, and start to validate those numbers. So to give you an example, again, I'll stick with the web design example. So if somebody was going to spend, sell a website for 20 hours at £50 an hour, they'll say that it's £50 an hour because £50 is small. It's a little number. It's not that big a deal to most people. So it's safe. 20 hours at £50 an hour. So the first step is we say, right, well, you need to get comfortable saying the big number. Okay. So when you go and pitch, the next 10 people you pitch to, you're going to pitch at £1,000. Now, the price isn't any different, okay? It's no different at all. It's just getting comfortable with that big number. And it's normal. It's just a number. It's just money. It's like an ethereal thing. It doesn't exist. Like, why are you giving it so much power? Why are you being so afraid of it? And the reason we go just outside our comfort zone is because, as we all know, you don't grow unless you're just outside that comfort zone. Like, growth comes through pain, and fear, like overcoming those fears. So we go just outside that comfort zone. Now, when I've got a client to a point whereby they're comfortably pitching £1,000, right, we're ready for the next step, okay? And it's super simple. All I do is an auction with them, okay, to establish where their next level of fear is. So we'll go £1,200, £1,500, £1,800, and they might wink or do a tick or a tell or something like that at that point. It's just body language. Like you see in poker, everybody has a tell. So I know when they've hit their limit. And okay, 1,500 was just inside your comfort zone, 1,800 was just outside it. Now go and pitch 10 people at £1,800. Oh, I'm not sure I can do that. Okay, well, it worked at 1,000. Why isn't it going to work at 1,800? Okay, and I have a really fun game at this point, which I play with my clients, and it always makes people laugh. So I say to them, listen, if you go and pitch it to 10 people at £1,800, because I only take on clients that I really believe in their products or their services that they're selling. I don't take on clients if I don't think I can help them or I just don't get their products right. So I would always buy my clients' products. So I say to them, listen, if you pitch 10 people and you can prove that you pitched £1,800 to 10 people and nobody buys it, I'll buy it off you. So at least you got one customer off the back of it. And like straight away, they're like, oh, well, it's no problem. So there's no jeopardy. Nobody's taken the tenner away from them. It's like it's a win-win at that point. They've got nothing to lose.
Have you had to buy any yet?
No, never. 250 clients through the program, and we've not yet had to pay somebody for their services. Well, I have, but only out of choice because I want to work with them to get them to help me with something. So what typically happens as well, like clients are like buses, so you can't predict whether, and they'll sell 2, 3, or 4 out of the 10, so 20 to 30% conversion rate, right? But you can't predict whether it's going to be the last 3 or the first 3. So we just have to get them to stand firm, like Braveheart, that scene where it's like, hold, we have to get them to stand firm at that price point until they get their first yes. And it's remarkable the amount of times I've heard, Robin, you never guess what, somebody said yes. I can't believe how easy it was. I've already put my prices up. So I don't even have to hold them to because this process happens quickly. Like most business owners will have leads coming in and inquiries coming in if they're doing their marketing correctly. So they'll typically have 10 or 20 pitches in the first 4 to 6 weeks. So they're validating at a higher price point. And that's the third step. We validate. So great, we've got somebody to say yes. And then we iterate every 4 to 6 weeks. Let's put the price up, put the price up, put the price up until the needle falls somewhere in the middle of about a 1 in 5 to 1 in 3 conversion rate. And then as their confidence grows, the conversion rate increases. And then we go over the 1 in 3. And I'm like, right, put your prices up. And we just keep on playing the game.
Business just really is a combination of different systems, isn't it? You've got just small 1% increases here and there. It makes that difference to the overall output. And the more I learn about it, the more it is just about systemization, processes, it's having fun with it, isn't it? It's about having some fun as well. So the final point I want to pick up on is something I know we've talked about as well, and that's where people place discounting. What are your views and take on that then, Robin?
Yeah, so my view on discounting is like never discount your core product that you're selling, and the reason, or even the following products. And the reason for that, so the Chartered Institute of Management Accountant looked at a whole huge amount of, sort of hundreds of thousands of businesses and their data, and they worked out that, because most people assume if you do a 10% discount, you've only got to sell 10% more of the same thing to get the same net profit. But actually, as the money trickles down through the profit and loss account, so with overheads and expenses, your costs, there's actually this compounding effect which happens, and you need to speak to a chartered accountant for them to explain it probably in more detail. But the reality is, a 10% discount actually means for the average business, you've got to sell 25% more of the same product to make the same net profit. So there's this, and you then go up to 15% discount. All of a sudden, it's 50% more. By the time you've hit a 25% discount, you've got to sell double the amount of stuff. Imagine double the amount of effort to make the same profit on the bottom line. So discounts are incredibly, they erode profitability massively. There's one caveat to this though, I say this because you mentioned it earlier on about the cost to acquire a client. Okay. You can discount an attraction offer. Okay. So let's take coaching, for example. If you had an event that you were selling normally for £100 a ticket, you could do an attraction offer where you'd sell that for a 50% discount to get somebody through the door. That costs you £50. Okay. So it's not terribly expensive. If you know how much each client is worth to you, great. You're going to be in the profit if you know your numbers. Whereas conversely, and this is what unfortunately, a lot of service businesses do, they think if I sell more coaching sessions, I'll offer a discount on that. So imagine a £3,000 coaching product, right? Where you offer a 10% discount because they bought 6 months in advance rather than per session. Okay. That's just cost you £300. Right. And then if you've then now anchored them to that price, they expect that discount ad infinitum. There's expectations going on here. So never discount your core product because it just erodes massive chunks of profitability, because, £300 is a lot of money. Look, you put that into a compounding, dividend yield over 10 years, and you'd be surprised at how much that gets back for you, for example, or into a new marketing campaign to get more clients. It's for a business, that £300 is a lot of money versus £50 to acquire a client. It makes sense to discount to attract, but not on your core product.
Well, thank you for clearing that up. And I think there's probably a whole heap of stuff we could continue talking about, Robin, but we're coming towards the end of our conversation for today, and I really enjoyed it. Thank you for sharing some of your insights. We mentioned your book at the beginning, Robin, Take Your Shot, and I can see behind you, you've got more than one book on the shelf there, but there's some great nuggets in here, and you've offered Wealth Builders, Wealth Talk listeners a free copy. So how would someone go about getting a copy of this, Robin?
Yeah, absolutely. So just for your listeners, they can head on over to fearless.biz/TYS for Take Your Shot, or click on the resources tab. And if they're based in the UK, I'll send them a signed copy of it as well. If it's overseas, sort of outside of the UK, it'll just be a PDF, but hopefully there's still a ton of value in getting hold of that PDF. But yeah, fearless.biz/TYS.
Excellent. Thank you for that. And I highly recommend you go and grab a copy of that. And if someone wants to just check you out online, Robin, and kind of follow you on the socials, where should they head?
Yes, I'm showing up quite a lot on Clubhouse at the moment, so you can just go and search for me, Robin Waite, in Clubhouse, and or Instagram. Connect with me on LinkedIn as well. I'm there regularly. The only thing I don't tend to do very often is my email, so that's the worst place to get hold of me. But Instagram, LinkedIn, Clubhouse, definitely.
Fantastic chatting with you today, Robin, and we'll catch up again really soon.
It's an absolute pleasure, Christian. Thank you.
Right. Okay. Lots and lots of different points that were discussed there. So a good sort of overview of all the different ways that someone can stop trading time for money in their business, Kevin. So before we start dissecting that and pulling out some of the wealth building points, let's head on over to Trustpilot. And one of our latest reviews is from Dom. And Dom has said, peace of mind and money saving advice. Having listened to Wealth Builders podcast for a few months, I decided to take action and review my foundations and roof. I had always thought I was on top of my bills and costs, changing insurance providers regularly. However, one thing I hadn't done was review my life cover versus what was actually needed. My wife and my life cover was a decreasing policy on our old house. I think he means his wife's and his life cover there. And so they took out more appropriate cover, over 2.5 times more, and have still saved money. So some valuable free advice. Thank you from Dom.
There you go. So, we're quite comfortable if people pick out lessons and then apply those lessons themselves. But as we know, compounding is the real key to wealth building. And compounding means taking lots of different actions, planting lots of different seeds, all of which will lead to future fruition. So what would be interesting from Dom is saving the money is one thing, but what did he do with that money that helped him build wealth? Now, always good to get any insurance that you need and not waste money on insurance you don't need. And that's definitely covered in debits, the area we talk about a lot in Wealth Builders. But there's also, and you could probably signpost this, Chris, for those who are business owners, and Robin's message is really predominantly at business owners, that business owners themselves can get life cover with the premiums paid for by the tax man. So in other words, the company pays the cost and then you get tax relief on that cost. And on average, it's about a 50% reduction, which means, if you need life cover of X, you can get 2X for the same price because the tax man's paying in. So that's something called relevant life. It's a specialist type of insurance for business owners. Definitely, if you're a business owner and you've not heard of that, get in touch with us at Wealth Builders because we've got a guide to that, Chris, and I'm sure you could signpost a podcast about that as well.
I will do. I'll link to that in today's show notes. And all of this stuff that we're talking about here, we teach inside the Wealth Builders Academy. So the foundation, the roof, those are steps in our 9-step roadmap there. And you can download a copy of that roadmap. If you head to wealthbuilders.co.uk/roadmap, you'll see exactly what we're talking about. And step 4 is where we really get into building knowledge stage, Kevin. And step 4 is all about assets. And today on this podcast, we're talking about asset number 5, pillar number 5, business. So let's pull out some of those points from Robin. And of course, we know a business as a true wealth building asset has to work without you. So there's only a couple of ways to do that really, is obviously create value initially, but then you need to use leverage. Leverage normally comes in the way of systemization or building teams, and that releases you from the day-to-day activities. But there's 4 types of recurring income business that you share inside Wealth Builders community, Kevin. So probably a good starting point just to recap on those for everybody.
Yeah, just before I do that, Chris, let me just touch on the Wealth Builders 3-pin plug. This isn't anything to do with utility bills, but the fact that we have a thought, don't we, about being in business, and I speak a lot about really trying to design a business that provides outstanding value for money. And I mean outstanding. So to be outstanding in a niche, so the kind of 3-pin plug, if you imagine the 3 key points here, the first one is be outstanding in a niche. So choose a niche. Choose something very specific. The more specific, the better. So you're not trying to serve everybody. You're providing a brilliant solution for a narrower group of people. So that's your niche. The second is to design the business in a way that you can gain recurring income, not trading time for money in an hourly rate kind of way, which, obviously Robin very expertly demonstrated the negatives of charging by the hour, so a trap so many people fall into. So recurring income is the second point on the 3-pin plug. And the third is to create the business in the end that it can work without you. There's never going to do that at the beginning, because at the beginning you need to learn how the business works, what the systems you need to put into place to deliver the outcome you want. But in the end, the business needs to run without you doing the work. So you do the work, you set it up, you get your leverage, and then you can operate it, have it managed, or you could sell it. Either way, you get an outstanding value. Now, in terms of the different ways business owners can think about the creation of a recurring income model, you're quite right, Chris. There are 4 recurring income model types. And the way to think about this is just try and imagine stuff that you're doing in your life now and be more curious about that. See what you observe from either your own behavior or the behavior of others. So the 4 types of recurring income. Number 1 is the automatic delivery of a service. So Are you buying anything that somebody's delivering a service to you automatically? They take the pain away of the renewal. They take the pain away of you having to be reminded. It just automatically delivers and automatically bills you. Is there something like that you're subscribing to in terms of a service? Maybe. Maybe it's your alarm system at home. Maybe it's the way you get your car service maintained or whatever. But you can see there are many ways that a business can provide an automatic service. Now, what about automatic shipping or delivery of a product? I always talk about wine, Chris, don't I? Because I buy wine, and I find it's easier for me for it to be automatically delivered to me. So I don't mind paying for it. I get the pleasure from it, but I don't need to be reminded. The product arrives. I'm also a subscriber to a kind of a meal service, healthy food 3 times a week, and also an odd box, a box of kind of oddments of vegetables, all sorts of things that we wouldn't ordinarily try, and we get a box delivered every week to our home. So what do? Is there an automatic product that you subscribe to? But so get some inspiration from that. See how they package that. See how they market that. See how they price that. And are you comparing everything, or are you getting the pleasure of the convenience of that? The third is membership, or some form of a program where you're engaging people in a membership program. And there's lots of examples of that, offline, online. Obviously, WealthBuilders is a membership program. For those who subscribe to that, you don't need to subscribe to us, but we'd be thrilled if you would. If not, you can consume our stuff for free. But our ultimate intention, of course, is to reach out to those people who want a little bit of extra help so they can get that peace of mind of becoming financially independent rather than just tapping in to the occasional good idea. And then the fourth, Chris, is something we call a gateway, which is your niche. Can you understand your niche so deeply, so richly, that you can see all of the things they need, all of the things they would buy, all of the knowledge they would get, all of the services and products and so on that they might use, and then create a website or a pathway that people go through to get access to all of that. And there are examples of that in particularly around things like pets and unique services that individuals might want to use. And you can look, what do they do before? What do they do during the service? What do they do after the service? And you're basically providing a pathway for anybody who's interested in a specific thing to get access to all sorts of different things that you curate and put together. But then you become the kind of central hub of all of this information to make it easier for the customer. So they're the 4 different ways, Chris, and I hope somebody gets inspired to think about how they might craft their business in a way to do that.
Yeah, no, thanks for recapping on those, Kevin. And a gateway can be a good one for people right at the beginning, can't it? Because it means you save the time on having to actually build or create your own product. And if you can't sell somebody else's product, then you might as well give up. So practice first, sell someone else's product. Find your market, get clear on who your avatar is, and then you can start to develop your own products. That can, as you say, is a gateway into business for a lot of people.
Well, indeed. And it's the quickest and fastest way to do that, because there are already products out there, but the product owner may be selling it uniquely and just, and their product is delivered over there and another product is delivered over there, but you put them together and then, you've got a common place for somebody who is interested in that area. And look, we're all interested in so many things. We just talked about wine, we talked about golf, we talked about you've just been to the gym. There are so many different things that people have a fascination for, that you can provide a gateway service that you don't have to be the expert or even have designed the product. You can just market somebody else's. And, if you're always marketing and being paid on results, the owner of the product is never going to object to that, because they're only going to pay you if they get a sale. So they're going to be happy with that, and so are you. So just do the research in a particular niche, an area, an avatar, as you say, Chris, and see if you can find something that you could explore. And you could have dozens of these. You could be a multiple gateway business and have gateways in so many different ways. Usually best, though, to consider what you're curious about yourself, what you're interested in, what you have expertise in, because then you can focus much more on the niche. So anybody's interested in that, I'm sure we've done lots of episodes on business in the past, Chris, and reach out to us, because business by far can create the biggest single outcome in terms of a business acquisition. For example, an acquirer buys the business, it can be life-changing sums of money in a way that you could do that relatively quickly. Whereas if you're building assets in, say, the stock market or property, it might take you, 5, 10, 15 years to get to where you want to get to. But in business, you can do it in a fraction of that time.
So you say focusing on your niche, and for Robin, obviously that's working with owners of small businesses and helping them to increase their profits. And, one of the challenges as well with business owners, certainly again in the earlier stages, is mindset. And, mindset applies to, pretty much everything we do. But in business, again, sometimes you can doubt yourself, and that can mean you don't really value yourself in terms of how much you charge for your products and services. So Robin talked about a little exercise he uses with some of his clients there. But it's not about just trying to see how much you can charge, is it? It's always about making sure that you're delivering more value than what you're getting back in exchange. And, he talked about offering guarantees with that as well. And of course, that's something we do at Wealth Builders, but, really backing what you're offering and knowing that you've got great value, a great service, a great product.
Well, nicely said, Chris, because, the whole idea, I think, when he's playing the mind game of, where people get out of their comfort zone, I definitely agree that nothing grows in a comfort zone. I'm not certain that I would always agree with, the highest price you can get away with is a good thing. I'm sure he didn't mean that. I think it's more about just being resolute to know that if you're delivering outstanding value, then you can charge for that value. And that would be a fair exchange, because if you think about it, you have an obligation, if you've got a great service, to educate people on that. And that process can only carry on if you keep making profit. Otherwise, if you price yourself out, in the end, you'll go out of business, and then all of those customers that you would have served will no longer be served. So, if you don't make enough margin, you can't keep the mission going. So businesses must make profit to keep going, and you have to put a commercial value on that. So I think he makes a good point, but I think we just wanted to give a slightly different twist on it.
Well, we love business. Hopefully that's come through today. And I'm sure we'll be covering some other aspects of business in the coming weeks. As I did mention there when I was chatting with Robin, we're currently running a 4-week program for our Academy members, which is how to validate your business idea. And we're sharing lots and lots of tips with them. Maybe we can invite some of those guys on in a few weeks' time. Hopefully they've validated a few of their ideas. They can share themselves how that's worked for them.
Sounds fascinating, Chris. And let's see if they've found their sort of archetypal business. Is it a service? Is it a product? Is it a membership? Is it a gateway? One of those 4 is a pathway to massive success. So good luck. Have a good think. You business owners out there, don't be mad entrepreneurs. Be smart ones. And look forward to seeing you sometime soon on the next Wealth Talk, Chris.
Absolutely. Yeah, we hope you enjoyed listening today. We'll catch up same time, same place next week.
And until then, my friend, see ya.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Don't forget that we are constantly updating our resources inside the Wealth Builders membership site to help you create, build, and protect your wealth. Head over to wealthbuilders.co.uk/membership right now for free access. That's wealthbuilders.co.uk/membership.